Hello everyone, my name is Sage Bonebrake and welcome to my presentation on decision making and organization. Before we jump in, I wanted to take a moment to introduce myself. Like I said, my name is Sage Bonebrake. I am 19 years old and I am a sophomore at ASU Online. I currently work as a shift supervisor at Starbucks. I've been a supervisor for almost a year now and I've been with the company for about 3.5 years. I live just outside of Chicago, Illinois, and I've lived here my entire life. I absolutely love it, but someday I hope to move somewhere with mountains. Some other things that I love are I love to travel. Anywhere I can go, I will. I love to sing. I absolutely adore musical theater. I've been in multiple productions as well as directed a couple. And I love to read. However, I have not found much time to do so lately. Jumping into the topic of this presentation, upon taking the personality quiz, I received the results of being an ENFJT, which is labeled the protagonist. The protagonist is deeply committed to relationships, both professional and familiar, and they thrive in roles that are leading and assisting others. Some of the qualities of an ENFJT are strong interpersonal skills, natural born leadership, altruistic natures, highly intuitive, and they have often been described as passionate and effective communicators. Empathetic nature is both an ENFJ's greatest strength, but it could also be a potential Achilles heel for this type. Do I agree with these results? Yes, I do agree 100%. Now, I have always been fascinated by personality types, so I find myself retaking this same quiz whenever I feel like I've grown as a person and I'm curious to see if my personality type has grown as well. And this was the first time that I've gotten a different result. In the past, it's always been an ENFP or an INFP. So it was quite interesting to receive a different personality type. However, after reading about ENFJs, I agree that it does fit me better, at least who I am today. Being an ENFJ allows me to form deep, authentic connections with others, but I found that it can also leave me vulnerable to emotional exhaustion. I find myself taking on others' problems as well as my own, and sometimes I take on their problems as my own, sometimes at the expense of my own well-being. Over years of doing this, I've realized balance is key. Now, connecting ENFJs back to a decision-making aspect, I've picked satisficing, which I see quite a bit in my personality type. Just a brief refresher, satisficing is a decision-making strategy where a person settles for a good enough option rather than seeking the absolute best choice. Now, ENFJs have a tendency toward maximizing. ENFJs strive for the best outcome, especially when their decisions affect or could benefit others, and they like to explore multiple options so that they have the best chance of arriving at the best one. Emotional considerations is another thing that ENFJs and satisficing have in common. ENFJs prioritize harmony, and they might end up satisficing in situations where making the quote-unquote perfect choice could lead to unnecessary conflict or stress within the organization. And they could also not push their opinion, even if they feel very strongly about it. And finally, there are growth opportunities in ENFJs. Learning to satisfice can help ENFJs ultimately reduce decision fatigue and reduce their stress levels. Learning to accept that good enough is all right can let them focus on what truly matters, which is connecting and relating to the people in their organization. What about potential barriers with colleagues? Like any personality type, there are always going to be people that you do not get along with, and that's okay. Some of the potential barriers that ENFJs might have with colleagues are that they avoid conflict. Discomfort with confrontation could leave issues unresolved between colleagues. We also have weak personal boundaries sometimes. Our giving nature can sometimes blur the lines of healthy relationships. Overstepping and oversharing is unfortunately too common. ENFJs also idealize others quite a bit. They might overlook flaws in others, which lead to disappointment later on. And finally, decision-making priorities. ENFJs might lead with more feeling than logic when compared to other types. ENFJs work mainly with idealism, while another personality type may focus a little bit more on practicality. Now, this is not to say that that is a bad thing. However, it is good to understand that ENFJs approach things differently than INFPs, for example. Understanding that there are these potential barriers and experiencing them in your own personal life, as I have many times at my workplace, give you the opportunity to truly comprehend what is happening, why it's happening, what the result of it is, and how you can better approach it next time to move forward and work through it with your colleagues. In conclusion, ENFJ's many strengths include charismatic leadership, empathetic communication, and they are very people-oriented personalities. They also have a lot of weaknesses, such as they're overly idealistic, they could be too sensitive to criticism, and have a habit of taking on too much responsibility or too much emotional baggage. I was excited to see the careers section in the personality quiz, as I've taken it so many times over the years, and that often led to taking career quizzes. So it was fun to see the careers that it gave me for an ENFJ instead of an ENFP. These included teachers and professors, school counselors or mental health counselors, or even an HR specialist, which I thought was quite interesting. Moving forward with the knowledge that I am an ENFJ, I'll continue to use my strengths, continue to lead with emotion and with a group at mind, but I'll also take the time to focus on personal well-being and being aware of how that strategy and how that personality type of leading is affecting me personally. Thank you. I hope you all have a lovely week.